Welcome to the Overwatch What's Next panel.
Hola a todos, aquí Mailman Grumpy de los Crying Grumpies con un nuevo vídeo de la Blizzcon 2017. En este caso, el panel sobre novedades de Overwatch. Va a ser más o menos una horita y vamos a ver qué es lo que nos van a contar.
All right, hello Blizzcon. What's up? How's everyone doing? All right, everyone, check out opening ceremonies. All of the new stuff we're gonna be talking about today. Obviously, we have new hero, Moira. Yeah. We've got a new map, Blizzardworld. That'll be fun to talk about. And you know, maybe a couple surprises. Ooh. So I thought we got a lot of stuff to talk about, so we'll start off, get right into it.
Pues bueno, vamos a ver qué es lo que nos presentan, aparte de Moira, sus habilidades, sus trajes y sus cositas, el nuevo mapa de la Blizzardworld y seguramente alguna cosita más que no sabemos. Y se están presentando los cuatro panelistas.
I'm Aaron Keller, I'm the assistant game director.
All right, so let's get started. Obviously, in opening ceremonies today, you got to see a little short video of Moira in action. Maybe some of you have had a chance to check her out on the floor, but Jeff promised. He said we had a little video for you in case maybe you had some questions about her story, who this character, who Moira is. So let's check it out.
Vamos a ver el vídeo de presentación de Moira. El vídeo de origen.
We stand on the brink of a breakthrough in human evolution. I have dedicated my life to unraveling its secrets. I take risks that others would consider to be unwise, for I do not share their caution. Overwatch held back the pace of scientific discovery for decades. They believed my methods were too radical, too controversial. They tried to silence me. But there were others in the shadows, searching for ways to circumvent their rules. Freed from my shackles, the pace of our research hastened. Together, we delved deeper into those areas forbidden by law, by morality, and by fear. New patrons emerged who possessed an appetite for my discoveries. And with this knowledge, what new world could we build?
Bien, tenemos que Moira es una científica sin escrúpulos. Ella es la que convirtió a Reyes en Reaper. Y también ha estado experimentando con ella misma, por eso ahora tiene poderes.
So the question obviously is, who is Moira? Well, most importantly, Moira is that new support healer character that you've been waiting for. Now, just to get into her story a little bit, you know, what I think is really interesting about Moira is she is a scientist, and obviously we have a lot of scientists in the cast already. And she is a little different because some of the other scientists are more interested in like creating inventions or I think I'm supposed to have some
conquering the world.
Yeah, sorry. Forward. Okay, so Moira is a scientist. She's not so much interested in conquering the world, even though she has she's allied herself with people who might have proclivities in that direction. She's really just into the actual science. She wants to understand the fundamentals of human life and how they can be manipulated. She is a geneticist, and that is her primary goal. And that's all
Dicen
she
que
wants. But the thing is that
ella es una científica, que tenemos varios científicos en el roster de Overwatch, pero que ella se interesa menos en hacer inventos y en explotar los avances científicos. Ella lo que quiere es entender lo que es un ser humano y cómo puede mejorarlo, manipularlo y pasar a la humanidad al siguiente nivel.
So the really interesting thing about her is that when we created Moira, we wanted her to have all these connections to characters throughout Overwatch history through different groups. So, like we said before, she was recruited by Gabriel Reyes to be a member of Blackwatch, and during that time, she had relationships with the Blackwatch crew, McCree, Genji. They all have their own sort of likes and dislikes for each other. Reyes wanted someone who could help advise him on some matters of genetics that he
Bien,
was
dice que
interested in,
Reyes,
shall we say.
Reaper,
And then,
la reclutó para Blackwatch
very mysterious, yes. Almost maybe a connection there. Yes, there's a connection there.
y que ella tiene ahora conexiones con todos los miembros de este grupo.
In the present day, Moira has allied herself with Talon now that Overwatch is gone. When you think about Moira's goals, figuring out these building blocks of human evolution and her need to like push forward science at any cost, it really meshes well with the goal of Talon, and so she has found new patrons like Doomfist. So that's sort of the story background.
Y que ahora está aliada con Talon,
and I'm going to hand it over to Arnold now so we can talk a little bit about the,
son los que le ponen el dinero para sus investigaciones.
Cool. Thanks, Mike. So it's always interesting to think back on the ideation of a hero. You know, how do we start? We get that question a lot. And with Moira, it was a little bit of gameplay and a little bit of story. We heard your feedback. You guys wanted a new healer in the game. We felt the same way.
Totally.
Jeff felt the same way. So we really started there. And we have a lot of benevolent healers in the game. We have an angel, we have a monk, mother, and the most upbeat, like positive DJ that you've ever met. So we felt like it was time for something a little bit more morally ambiguous, a little bit more shady. So we started there, and we started with these concepts. And already right
Vale,
away,
cuenta que en el juego ya tenemos varios curadores buenos y que ahora querían probar otra cosa. Y aquí vemos unos dibujos de cómo podría haber llegado a ser Moira.
Yeah, I mean, like it's one thing for it to be a very unique and cool silhouette, but it's another thing to wrap like gameplay around that, right? You really want someone that has tentacles to have abilities that might reflect those visuals. So we tried something a little bit more conventional. We tried, okay, maybe we'll just give her something a little bit more toned down, maybe like a giant two-handed spray cannon. This is where we kind of started to layer in the science vibe to it. You can see some of those tubes starting to get in there. But it started to look a little, I don't know, maybe it might be confused with Zarya on the battlefield with that same silhouette. So we wanted to come up with something different. We took a step back, did a few thumbnails to really dive deep into what kind of weapons does Moira use, for healing, for damaging her opponent.
Han estado experimentando con diferentes tipos de armas que podía llevar. El primero lo de los tentáculos, pero dijeron que tendrían que haberle dado habilidades acordes a los tentáculos, pues a lo mejor trepar paredes o alguna cosa así. Luego la de que le iban a poner un cañón grande para hacer una zona de curación, pero que se podría haberla confundido con Zarya por la silueta de llevar una mujer con un cañón grande. Y que luego pues han estado probando diferentes tipos de armas y por eso hay tanto concepto, arte de conceptual. Vale, hasta que llegaron al actual diseño. Que es el que se ha visto en el vídeo inicial en el que lleva las armas como el cuarto dibujo que veis aquí, que lleva los guantes y en teoría con una mano cura y con la otra mata.
All the elements from the concepts, the thumbnails that we just showed, and started to really kick up the more science apparatus vibe.
Asumo que será, que lo contarán luego, pero que seguramente será con un botón del ratón curará y con el otro botón hará daño.
So we tried to work that into the game. We even tried a couple of different hairstyles, but we ultimately we really liked the red hair on her.
The tubes are actually a great touch because our gameplay is draining people of their energy and feeding it sort of as healing to your allies. And you can actually see when that happens, the tubes actually change colors, like it's actually directly converting the energy over to healing. It's an awesome touch.
And speaking of which, one of the things that really helped us flesh out that idea is because it's a first-person game, you're going to be seeing her hands a lot. This is the one of the only heroes that shows both of her hands on the screen, you know, like Zenyatta, like Doomfist. So her hands are everything. Those are her weapons, and we wanted to explore how she could express herself.
Aquí veis el detalle de sus manos, como la mano izquierda está sana, se podría decir, que es la mano de curadas, y la mano derecha está, pues, que se le ven las venas ahí con los implantes y todas las cosas estas, que es la mano de drenar vida, según dicen.
So this is a concept from our senior concept artist Ben Jang, and he really knocked it out of the park to get that duality in there. And there might even be a little bit of story behind why that hand is like that.
Yeah, how did her hand get messed up? Was it perhaps close proximity to another sort of genetic anomaly or experimentation? Hard to say. I actually do remember that, changing the subject, that when we were really dialing in the animations for the hands, like we were really concerned with like how that felt. Like it's not that she's like out of control when she's using that power. She's 100% in command of it, and so she's really just like, that's how she shows her mastery.
Very aggressive, like just clawing and pulling. Really like the idea of this like leech hero.
Yeah.
She was, you know, that life-sucking kind of vibe for her. Another thing we like to do on the concept side is figure out some movement studies, we like to call them. These are sketches we like to do for figuring out both abilities, the VFX, the poses for animation. These are some early sketches for her ultimate ability, Coalescence. One of the
Bien,
initial
aquí
ideas,
veis
like she has
varios arte relacionado con
the original thing was
sus poderes, los efectos visuales al usar las habilidades. El de abajo a la izquierda es el de cuando está usando el ultimate, que es el que junta las dos manos para hacer un rayo que tanto cura como daña a todo lo que tenga delante.
Moira, but it wouldn't really be a new hero announcement. We didn't show some awesome skins.
Y ahora nos van a mostrar varias skins del personaje. Este es muy chulo.
Moira. This one's called Oasis. She actually has a kind of a connection with Oasis, doesn't she?
Yeah, so currently, in addition to her duties as a scientist for Talon, Moira was also invited by the ministers of Oasis to become their minister of genetics, and so she's basically leading up their genetic research at the city.
Si no me equivoco, por el nombre es Lida, será una
This one's also done by
skin rara.
Ben Jang, and he did the concept for the Oasis Symmetra as well. And we really love those visuals, and we couldn't wait to use it on another hero. And
veremos si nos muestran alguna legendaria.
The next one, my personal favorite.
Oh, rockera, glam. Vale, que hay algunos skins que tienen poco que ver con el juego en sí y que tal vez ir así vestida a una batalla no sea completamente adecuado, pero hay algunos skins que son muy chulos para todos los personajes, no solo para esta Moira.
But I'm sure you guys want to know more about her gameplay and how she works. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Jeff.
Y bueno, pues ahora vamos a ver todos los poderes que tiene.
Thanks, guys. So as we said, like we were hearing you guys' feedback, and we were definitely feeling the same thing. Like we just need more healers in the game. So we started sort of thinking, what have we done? What would be really cool? What would work with other heroes? What was just a cool, fresh idea? So she actually on paper originally really started as actually having a ton of health and trying to like leech health off of people, and then you should feed her own health to people. It ended up being sort of a balancing nightmare, because it's like, what if I don't heal people and I just leech forever and you can't ever kill me? It's like, all right, that's a problem. So actually the way she ends up kind of working is in the same vein. She's got sort of the same feel to it, but it doesn't quite have that same design to it. But I'll walk you through all the abilities so you can see how she kind of works together. So her weapon's called Biotic Grasp. There's a primary fire and secondary fire to it. The primary fire we call Regeneration. It's this kind of just spray. It's kind of visually a little bit like Maze Blaster, but it actually pierces all your allies. So you can actually heal multiple allies at the same time. And
es el rayo de curación con el botón izquierdo del ratón.
But the only reason it's not overpowered, hopefully, is there's a meter controlling it, and as you can see kind of in this video on the right side, as you're using it, it kind of drains slowly, and it kind of regenerates pretty slowly by itself over time. But if you actually are trying to heal more, which hopefully you are, you can't really wait for that, so then her second part of this comes into play, which is the alternate fire, which is called the K. This is kind of her damaging hand. And this is where she's
y como decía yo, con el botón derecho es el de drenar vida.
Some help to her, so she's actually healing off of it. It's not a ton, but it's enough to sort of top yourself off and everything. That's great. But the big important thing is it fills up that meter really fast. So you're healing people, but you also need to take time whenever you can to try to leech energy off your enemies so you can feed it to your allies. It's very, it's a very evil way to heal.
Y es eso, tiene un límite de curación que depende de lo que vayas drenando, con lo que tienes que usar las dos habilidades a la vez. Luego tiene el Shift, que es un pequeño teletransporte, como...
And then she reappears, it's less than a second, super fast, but you also get an intense movement speed boost, so you can hit it and then like go around a corner really quick, and to the enemy you're just completely gone, you don't even know where you went.
Hablan de Reaper, hablan de Sombra, pero a mí me recuerda más a la habilidad de la Tracer.
You notice it has some similarities to Reaper's Wraith form, which is funny how that works out.
You know, we obviously there's a close relationship between Moira and Reyes/Reaper, and I think one of the fun things we were able to do is to sort of hint at some of those things in her ability.
It's like she's helping Reaper out, and it's like, you know, I think I can make this better. I have an idea.
Professional relationship.
Yes.
Ahora tenemos el Biotic Regeneration.
Second ability we call Biotic Orb. This also
Que
has
es la
two
E.
different modes, much like her primary, secondary fire, and it follows the same kind of pattern. So first thing you do when you hit those buttons, she pulls up those two orbs, and then represents the damage and the healing aspects. If you use the primary fire, you throw off the orb of regeneration, and that's sort of the yellow orb you see here. And these orbs can bounce around. They have like infinite bounces. They can bounce all over like a small area or off ceilings, stuff like that. And if they ever get near allies, it will slow down and start healing them automatically. It has only so much it can heal. Has like a
Vale, pues es un orbe que así que durante unos segundos cura a todos los que tengas cerca. Con el botón izquierdo haces E botón izquierdo para curar, y supongo que será, si haces E y botón derecho, lanzará el orbe de dañar. Y daña a todos los que tengan el área.
It's basically exactly the same, it's just inverted. So you do damage to enemies. So it can also bounce around. This can be incredibly deadly in a small area where it's bouncing around a lot, especially because you can move and
con lo que en realidad botón izquierdo, botón derecho, disparo con los dos botones, orbe con los dos botones, es como si tuvieses 4 armas diferentes en vez de 2.
Yeah, that's always the fight out of here. Be like Genji, get. Fetch. Yeah, great. Now her ultimate ability is Coalescence. Now this is sort of the ultimate, like, she's got this whole dichotomy thing going on. She's always got to choose if she's healing or doing damage. Her ultimate is just like, no, I get to do everything.
Que tanto daña como cura.
Super
Es
long range, really fat beam.
Un rayo gordo.
She's kind of feeding both hands together and creating this beam that it heals allies that it's hitting and damages enemies that it's hitting. So you just want to hit everybody with it. In fact, in some maps we're playing, we get in this fights in these little corridors, and she's just like, I win. I don't care what's happening. Everything good is happening for me right now.
Y hace bastante daño, la verdad.
Yeah, pretty much.
Parece que levite también mientras lo está haciendo.
So there's also some other amazing properties to it.
Habrá que probarlo, si saltando desde una esquina y te quedas levitando y curas, o haces daño.
Yeah, so it's hard to heal sometimes through those things, and you're just like, nope, I'm going to go through, and then, you know, Reinhardt's back there trying to protect his team. He's like, well, we can't really sit here anymore, I guess we have to move or something. And of course, if your team jumps in right afterwards, now they're going to heal.
La verdad es que es un personaje que tiene bastante buena pinta.
Also, you can pick up those pesky ferrets sometimes.
Para ser healer.
So that's kind of a breakdown of how all the abilities work individually, but we actually have a video to show you what it looks like when it's all put together.
Y ahora un pequeño vídeo mostrando todas sus habilidades a la vez.
Science can reveal the truths that lie behind these many questions. What we learn can unlock the true potential of humanity.
Este no es el de presentación que han puesto en Al principio, creo que sí. Al principio en la ceremonia de apertura.
To the shadows. Tell me how this feels. Come to me and I will heal you.
No, creo que esto es más completo, que tiene más cositas.
I will unmake you. Simple geometry.
Lights out.
Surrender to my will.
Está bien, me gusta esto de que tengas que jugar con... como si fueses Cíclope de la Patrulla X, con la geometría, haciendo que tus orbes reboten contra la pared para poder dar bien a los enemigos. Y la verdad es que me parece eso, un personaje bastante chulo.
Alright, so that was Moira,
Y bien,
Overwatch's new support hero.
pasamos a
And, you know, definitely go try her out
Blizzardworld,
now.
la nueva
Send us your
pantalla
feedback, even if it's just to tell us
basada
that,
en
yes, she
un
is
parque de
okay, yeah.
atracciones.
But yeah, definitely let us know how you're liking her. But now to change tone, change subject a little bit, talk a little bit about the new map that we announced at opening ceremonies, Blizzardworld. So, hey, you know, you can clap for it. It's exciting.
It's clap-worthy. It's very clap-worthy. Map is amazing.
So, I don't know if any of you were here at BlizzCon a couple years ago, but I remember it well because I think it might have been my first time up here on the main stage, and I was sitting next to our creative director, Chris Metzen, and someone asked a question, and Chris decided that he wanted to talk about kind of a fun idea that we had, which was the idea of a Blizzard amusement park. And he kept asking me, like, hey, should I just say something? And I was shaking my head like, no, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Too far, Chris. But he went ahead and did it anyways. And so that idea has been in the back of our minds, like, pretty actively, honest, to be fair, for the last couple of years. And finally, we thought, wouldn't it be fun to actually go ahead and make that? And so we've taken this idea, you know, a name, Blizzardworld, and now we've made it into an entire park. And yeah, so
¡Oh!
yes. So
La verdad es que si esto lo construyesen de verdad sería una gozada.
Blizzardworld is an amusement park. It is celebrating the worlds and universes of Blizzard Entertainment. It is
¿Vale? Un
it
parque
was
de
built in
atracciones
Irvine, California,
completísimo
obviously. And
sobre todos los juegos de Blizzard.
One important note from a story standpoint is that there is no Overwatch part of the park. So in the world of Overwatch, Blizzard Entertainment exists. It did not create the video game Overwatch or license a game from
¿Vale?
Overwatch.
Lo único que no hay en el parque de atracciones es la zona de Overwatch porque dicen que este parque existe en el mundo de Overwatch, Blizzard existe en el mundo de Overwatch, pero claro, ellos no han hecho ningún juego de Overwatch, sino que han hecho todos los demás, con lo que es normal que allí no haya nada de Overwatch, pero sí de los demás juegos. Y tenemos zonas de World of Warcraft, tenemos zonas de StarCraft, está la taberna de Hearthstone, el Lost and Found Vikings, esta taberna, Pylon Terrace, Fly to Duskwood,
Blizzardworld. Epic fun detected.
zonas de juego, una mesa de Hearthstone, la sala del trono,
Come and visit Blizzardworld. New adventures are waiting for you.
I can't wait to get on some rides.
Oh. Y bueno, esperamos que nos lo enseñen ahora con más profundidad.
That'd be great. I'm so excited to take you guys through Blizzardworld. The whole team, all of Blizzard, is so excited about this map, and we thought that BlizzCon would be the ultimate place to show it to you guys. So Blizzardworld is Overwatch's newest hybrid map. It is going to take players on an epic journey through the lands of Warcraft, StarCraft, and Diablo. Like our other hybrid maps, the match starts as a fight over the first control point. The defenders start in the Heroes of the Storm arcade, while the attackers will spawn in the Hearthstone Tavern. From here, the attackers can choose to attack the first point through the gates of Stormwind, or they can bypass the choke entirely by going through Lost and Found Vikings. There's so many places to see and explore. There's flanking routes all throughout the first area, like the Fargo Deep Mine, flight to Duskwood, or if you want, you can just stop off for a burger and some death wings at Snacksaramus.
Snacksaramus.
It's a good
Qué
name,
grande.
right?
Pues dicen que la primera parte del mapa es un mapa híbrido,
The design
es
of the
una
first choke is more of a mini
intentar
arena.
controlar
There's multiple
una
routes
zona,
for both the attackers
¿vale?
and the
Es como
defenders to get here and also to
en el mapa de
access the high
Londres,
ground.
en el cual primero hay que controlar una zona y luego habrá una pequeña parte de escolta, creo. Los defensores empiezan en el Heroes of the Storm Arcade y los atacantes empiezan en la taberna de Hearthstone. Y puede ser atacado por diferentes caminos, con lo que podemos ver un montón de zonas ya.
Past the siege tank and around the pylon terrace. Now, this area is a really large circular arena. There's an abundance of high ground, and there's direct access to it for both the attackers and the defenders. The defenders can set up around the pylon above the cafe, and when they need to, they can drop off and directly contest the payload there. The attackers, if they want to, they can try to take the high ground and contest it against the defenders by taking
Aquí en la zona de StarCraft es donde empieza la segunda parte, que es la de la parte de escolta.
There's a lot of interior opportunities either to attack the defenders or try to set up inside the Nexus experience. There's a really great spot for Sombra to set up on the Mega Health Pack, and Symmetra can just create the meanest nest inside the pylon terrace. It's nasty. So once the attackers push the payload to the first checkpoint, they'll start pushing into the Diablo area, and their new spawn room will be the passenger loading area for the Reign of the Black King ride, while the defenders move all the way back into the park's command and control center. So here the attackers push the payload into
La entrada de la iglesia de Diablo 3 es el primer punto de control de escolta. Luego se entra dentro.
All the lighting in here reminds you of Leoric's Manor. We have all sorts of props like the chandeliers and the shrines and the weapon racks that you can find in Diablo. You can break the barrels. Maybe you'll find some epic loot in here. Maybe there's some lost bit of lore to discover inside this area. Right here, this is actually a super cool Genji flanking route. You can run around the right. You just gotta watch out for the drop. This map was a labor of love
Dicen
for
que
everybody
por
on the
cosas
team.
temáticas
We're all
dentro de
huge
ahí hay
Blizzard
un montón
fans,
de barriles y de
on
cosas que
the
se pueden
Overwatch
romper
team.
y que
And
te
a lot
pueden
of
dar
people
cosas
that we have on the team
de loot,
worked all
no
across the
de
company.
loot
We
del
have
juego,
people
sino
that worked on this
como,
map that worked on World of Warcraft and Diablo and
como si
StarCraft
fuese
and
una
Heroes of the
partida de
Storm and
Diablo que te van
Hearthstone,
dando
and they
cosas.
all came together to provide so many different ideas about the park itself, from all the crazy rides that you can see in the
O que se
background and the gameplay
te pueden
areas,
dar cosas de conocimiento como
just even the cool signs for some of these rides,
como
like
en
the
el
spawning pool and Lost and Found
como en
Vikings.
Diablo,
That's-
que cuando
Who's that in the
descubres
spawning
algo
pool
nuevo
right there?
te suena un
I don't know, but I think the water
un
starts
pequeño
blue
texto
in the
explicando
beginning
lo
of
que
the
te vas
game.
encontrando.
We made special props for all the areas, from the inflatable Doomhammer to the treasure chest to the leather-bound copy of the Green Hills of Stranglethorn, Jeff Kaplan's original masterpiece.
His magnum opus.
Yes.
Those death wings.
There's souvenirs in each of the area that you can get. There's different flavor props that you can find for all of these different areas. We've packed so much into it, and there's so much more than we're showing you here. There's so much more
En
detail,
cada zona tendrá
there's so
sus
much more
tiendecitas de
passion and
recuerdos.
ideas, and there's a ton of little Easter eggs, not just in the art, but in the audio as well. As you run around, you'll hear the voices of Deckard Cain and the Adjutant from StarCraft. It's something, this is something that we have done for ourselves and fans, and for all of you as fans as well. So, so that's Blizzardworld. You guys can play it on the show floor today. It'll be playable all throughout BlizzCon. It's going to be hitting the PTR soon, and it will go live sometime early next year.
Y pronto estará en el reino público de pruebas, y a principios de 2018 ya será, ya estará en el juego base para que podamos jugar todos. Cuando esté en el reino público de pruebas ya haré algún vídeo para que lo podáis ver.
In Overwatch was super exciting, and the character artists just like we want to work on this stuff too. So it wouldn't be a tribute to Blizzard and all its universes without some Blizzard-themed skins.
Y parece que con la salida de este mapa van a poner varias skins para los personajes basados en sus juegos. Oh, Orisa Inmortal. Oh, como si fuese el rey Magni Barba Bronce. ¡Oh, por Dios! Nova. Doomfist. Mano Negra. Y Zarya, Bárbara del Diablo 3. Todos muy chulos. Oh, mira el carnicero. Roadhog el carnicero. Esto van a ser todo legendarias, valdrán 3000 monedas. Esta podría ser épica. Y May. May con el vídeo del Echo Point, del vídeo de su presentación, del último vídeo que hicieron. La verdad es que están muy chulas todas. La de Nova para Widowmaker es espectacular.
In the Blizzardworld map, we got a lot of tiny tidbits we love just putting into these skins as well. Like if you notice in the video, Zarya's graviton core is actually the rage meter for barbarians, and she's even got a little ruby slotted into her weapon for all you D3 fans out there. I think Roadhog, for his take a breather, he's got like a potion, yeah, from Diablo. And you guys also notice like some non-Blizzard World skins. We have Crusader Reinhardt. Anybody see that Reinhardt cinematic this morning? It's so awesome, and we heard you guys' feedback. We definitely want to have you guys celebrate these awesome animated
Cruzado ya tienen varios skins de personajes de cuando eran más jóvenes, como el Reaper Reyes o el Soldado 76 antes de la edición coleccionista.
Well, we heard your feedback about wanting more items in the base loot box, and I'm super happy to announce that as early next year, all the skins we showed and more are going to be available in the base loot box of Overwatch. So they're not going to be part of any event. As soon as they're in the loot box, you're going to be able to earn them year round.
Vale, y estos skins no serán skins de evento, sino que estarán disponibles durante toda la vida del juego, por lo que serán relativamente fáciles de conseguir, aunque sean legendarios de 3000 monedas. Vale, ahora en la pantalla tienen puesto un listado de todos los demás paneles que va a haber sobre Overwatch, pero creo que serán los de preguntas y respuestas, alguno de arte o sobre la música del juego, y esos no los voy a comentar, voy a comentar los de los demás juegos, de novedades Y bueno, a ver, no sé si ahora harán una ronda de preguntas y respuestas.
I think I heard Reflections Hanzo skin.
Reflections Hanzo skin.
That one is requested a lot.
Yeah, I wonder.
Interesting.
Interesting.
All right, I think, okay, let's, it's hard to see microphones, but I hear there's one over there, so let's take a question from over there.
Ujú.
No,
Preguntas y
not over there.
respuestas, sí.
Okay.
Tenemos a lo mejor unos 5 minutitos.
They're lining up.
Over on that side.
La gente ya empieza a desfilar. La gente prefiere ir a jugar
Oh, I got
antes
that
que
costume
quedarse
is
haciendo
amazing.
preguntas.
Yeah, so, do you have a question for us?
Yeah. Yes. So, you guys are gonna make Blizzardworld real, right? In like
Easy as that.
2018,
Right, so
June.
here's the thing, right? It's in the future, so
Right.
still have a little bit of time to wait, I'd say.
If we
But-
started a Kickstarter for like $8 billion, you guys donate.
Pretty sure you guys would get every single dollar you asked for and more.
La chica ha preguntado si harían una Blizzardworld real.
I mean, I would love to go, so you won't get any argument from me.
Dicen que como es una cosa del futuro se podría estudiar, pero que podrían
Alright,
hacer un
question.
Kickstarter por 800 billones de
First of all,
dólares.
love Blizzardworld, but nothing would warm my heart more than defending on that map and manning that siege tank, even if it's just for 5 or 6 shots
Right.
while defending.
That's a pretty awesome idea. Maybe there's a game mode there or
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know.
We actually, yeah, I mean, one of the cool things about the arcade now is we get to try crazy stuff in there, and so, I mean, we try not to throw in map mechanics that are like in the main pool that's going to suddenly feel like it's like.
Bien,
different
este
from
señor
everything, but
ha
it's cool,
preguntado
definitely
si
an idea, and I
podría
think maybe a place
llegar a
for
usarse
somebody to try
el
maybe
tanque de
somewhere like
asedio
an arcade or something like that would be
dentro de la pantalla de Blizzardworld. Me han
Hey,
dicho que no
what's your
querían complicarlo
Hey guys, first off, thank you for the
y lo
support.
dejan como
We
está.
really need that.
Yeah.
And so my question is more of a lore question. So seeing Moira and her healing and her, siphoning of powers, I'm wondering if there's a connection between her powers and Zen's approach of how he heals in discords, or if it's going to be communicated in the future.
So there is a connection, but it's actually not to Zenyatta. It's actually more of a connection to Mercy. They both work together. Obviously, Moira was a part of Blackwatch. Mercy was a part of Overwatch. But she's definitely taken and modified some of that tech. In fact, there's some evidence on the Oasis map that sort of hints at some of that. So.
Bien, este ha preguntado si
I
había
mean,
una
that easy, I
conexión
just
entre
threw it
los
out there.
poderes de Moira y
Anyways, yeah, so
Zenyatta
not
y le han
Zenyatta
dicho que
so
es
much.
más...
That's
Está
a
más
little-
relacionada
that's a little
con
different. In fact,
Mercy
Moira herself
porque
is very
trabajaron juntas
curious about
durante
how
una
all
temporada
that works.
y que seguramente
cool.
Moira ha
Thank you,
estado
guys.
modificando su
Thank you.
tecnología
Okay,
para
next
hacer el
question.
drenado.
Hi. So I know that recently you updated Junkrat's grenades so they don't do damage to himself anymore. I was wondering if you had any plans to do something similar with Farah or her ult.
Maybe. I think it's not necessarily like a larger gameplay change across the board that we want to affect everybody. I think it was actually Junkrat himself was sort of in a state where like some of his stuff already worked that way. Like his shift concussive bomb already didn't hurt him. So we got into a place with him where it was like he was stuck at a very specific range where he like wasn't super good at long range, and when he got too close, he was killing himself. So from like a pure gameplay standpoint, we kind of had to like either let him shoot.
Esta
really
chica ha
far, which was
preguntado
really weird with the grenade launcher, or just kind of,
que
like,
como
make
cambiaron
him
hace
hurt
poco
himself
las
as part of
granadas
his
de
general
Junkrat
kit.
para que no le
But in
hiciesen
general, the
daño,
plan is still
si harían algo
explosive-
parecido con
explosive
los misiles de
weapons
Farah.
hurt yourself when you use them.
Y según parece no tienen intención de hacerlo, ya que Junkrat
Right,
es un
next
personaje que
question
dispara
over
más a corto alcance.
It's more like a smart ass question or whatever. I tend to think I'm like pretty clever. I mean, not like I'm watching like the Reinhardt cinematic or whatever, and like I noticed they're used to add some additions like the sword and the double guns. It's like, is next year's lore event gonna be an icon vault or a PvE event?
What was the question?
Sorry, what was your question?
Is next year's lore event PvE gonna be an icon vault?
well, we'll talk about. We're not really don't have anything to say about future events, but we certainly really love that map, and I think they really
Te he preguntado si, igual que con el evento de Halloween, podrían hacer un evento PvE en Eichenwald, y dicen que, bueno, pues que no, que el mapa les gusta mucho, pero que a lo mejor podría llegar a haber un evento allí. Ya se verá.
Hi, I'm a big fan. Okay, so I play a lot of Symmetra, and I realize that Symmetra's not really picked in like pro games. Is there any plans to like change Symmetra just a little bit, or make her, you know, maybe have healing abilities? Because she's the only support that doesn't heal. Just want to point that out.
I don't know how likely it is that she'll end up with healing abilities. I think I've heard definitely a lot of people comment that they feel like she should be in the defensive category because she doesn't heal, even though the support category is technically kind of like not necessarily healers, although at this point it kind of is. We've actually been talking a little bit about looking at the categories again and see if they make sense. But I hear what you're saying about Symmetra in general. She does get some play, but yeah, she doesn't get picked too much at the high end like that. You know, she pretty recently had that kind of remake where she got the extra ultimate, so allowed her to be a lot more flexible on a lot more points, so that helped out. And yeah, we're always looking at other heroes too in the future, and I mean, obviously as we've shown recently with Mercy, we're willing to go back and tweak things
Este ha preguntado si habría alguna modificación a Symmetra, porque es la única personaje de support que no cura.
Yeah, so I know Tracer was kind of inspired by like the jumper class from Titan and all that, and there was a couple other classes in heroes in Overwatch that are inspired by scrap classes from Titan. And I was wondering if Moira was one of them, and what other types of abilities or class play styles from Titan would you like to incorporate into future heroes of Overwatch?
Clearly the Omniblade, right? The idea that will never die.
I could say a few things about what I've said this before. Like we have a great tools team.
Este preguntado por cosas relacionadas con Titan, con el antiguo juego que estaban creando, ya que Tracer está basada en uno de los personajes que tenían para Titan, que si podrían aplicar más cosas del antiguo Titan al Overwatch. Y están diciendo que
and then you could hit another button at some point later, and she would have like this animation delay where she'd blow them all up. So you could like shoot somebody a bunch of times and then recall around a corner.
Que siempre han intentado aprovechar diferentes cosas de sus juegos y que siempre tienen muchas ideas.
If you're interested in this, go to the Overwatch panel tomorrow morning because there's a lot of information along, kind of along the veins of what you're talking about and what sort of things from Titan influence things in Overwatch as well.
Thank you.
Check it out. Yeah.
Y que en el panel del sábado hablarán más cosas de la influencia de Titan en Overwatch. Última pregunta, según parece.
So over the past year, it seems that as more heroes get introduced, there's been a bit of mobility creep in the game, and which means that some other heroes, especially in the competitive ladder like Zenyatta, McCree, don't have as many options in when to choose to engage. How are you guys dealing with that going forward as you design new heroes and revise old heroes?
I mean, I think it's definitely a concern. Whenever we're designing a hero, that actual literal topic comes up basically every time. Because I mean,
este chaval está preocupado por la movilidad de ciertos personajes como Zenyatta o McCree, que tienen menos movilidad que otros personajes y tienes que pensar cuándo entrar en batalla.
Obviously, a character like Orisa was pretty new. We want to make sure, okay, we're not doing anything mobility-wise on her. She's kind of the static one that moves forward and marches forward and it's hard to stop, but she doesn't.
Ahí, por ejemplo, este está contando que Orisa, que es un personaje relativamente nuevo, no tiene ninguna habilidad de movilidad, pero porque está diseñada así y que, bueno, pues que tendrán que revisarlo en un futuro si es necesario dar habilidades de movilidad a los personajes que no las tienen. Y bueno, hasta aquí este panel, el panel de Overwatch. Volveré con los demás juegos en próximos vídeos. Y ya sabéis, aquí los tenéis si queréis dejar algún comentario, alguna cosita. Ay, qué mamón. Pues dejan espacio para más preguntas.
ran all the way back here because I was first in line. But my question is, earlier this year, you guys announced that Tracer was LGBT identified. I was wondering if we can expect more of that from other heroes, because like as an LGBT identified man myself, it's like representation is super key in a game for me.
Yeah, so I completely agree. Representation is important to us as a team too. In making Overwatch, making sure that it is a diverse and representative game is something that we're always thinking about.
Bueno, este chico ha preguntado, diciendo que a principios de año Tracer se descubrió como del grupo LGTB, ¿vale? Es lesbiana. Si más personajes se identificarían así. Y ellos dicen que siempre han intentado ser una comunidad inclusiva y que quieren que haya todo tipo de variedad en los personajes del juego.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, back over this side.
Hi there. Currently in quick play, there's a distinct separation between players that want to play with like 60 PS, no plans of winning, and then another group of players who maybe want to play with people they're associated with who are too differing in rank. Do you have any plans to alleviate something like that?
This is in quick play specifically, you said?
Yeah, because when you're in quick play and you find a team that's not doing so well, they'll tell you to go to arcade. Yet you still want that competitive, like a competitive light aspect.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's something we're always looking at. The tricky thing for us is we can definitely layer in more restrictive matchmaking in general, but every time we add another layer, we're increasing the queue times for everybody, and that's like the biggest thing we're always fighting against, is we want to make sure that if you want to play Overwatch, you can jump on the game and play it in a reasonable time.
Este preguntado porque qué se podría hacer para solucionar el problema de que en un equipo empiece la gente a coger DPS y nadie coja tanques, nadie coja curadores. Si él quiere en una partida de quick play, en una partida rápida, tener más sensación de competitivo, si podrían hacer algo para esto. Y cuentan que el problema está en que cada vez que ellos implementan algo para que haya más equilibrio, acaba pasando que cueste más encontrar equipo, más tiempo sobre todo. Y que a lo mejor en lo que tardarías un minuto en encontrar una partida, pues entonces tardas 3.
Hello there. First of all, thank you very much. The Blizzardworld map looks really incredible. And my question actually is on level design. I'm just curious if there has, I was just wondering if there was going to be any interest in using at least old assets or just reusing different locations, but for different game modes. Like, would there ever be like a Route 66 map, but King of the Hill, or just kind of like reusing, if that makes sense, just using different old assets, just do new mechanics?
Este chico preguntaba por diseño de niveles, que si pueden usar los assets de niveles que ya están hechos para hacer diferentes modos de juego.
We've done it a few times. Even our latest map, Chateau, borrowed art elements from some of our other maps, so we do that. I think it would be super cool to have a Blizzardworld version of an arena or even an FFA map. I think something like that would be super cool. But as we build maps, we kind of get to it and decide what we think is going to be the coolest art set that we could use for it. And we kind of usually take a wait and see attitude.
Ellos aprovechan todo lo que pueden, pero que cada vez que diseñan un mapa nuevo, ven qué es lo que van a meter, que van a aprovechar de otros mapas, que van a aprovechar de otras cosas y qué es lo que pueden hacer con ello.
This is my second year at BlizzCon. Love playing Overwatch. I kind of consider myself more of like a competitive player, so like I like to play competitive and really rank up and see if I can hit that high ladder. Right now I'm playing in like Masters-ish. And my question for you, as someone who's played other games that have a really structured competitive system, would you consider adding a more like redefined scorecard into competitive only, just so you could better see what's going on your team, the other team, and like maybe if you could look and see for some more self-improvement, like on how you played.
Sure. Do you mean the scorecard, like the end of the match scorecard? Do you mean
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about quite a bit, actually, especially in the competitive play. You know, there are other third-party sort of applications and websites and stuff that are doing a lot of interesting things, tracking stats for people and stuff. And
Bien. Este chico preguntaba por el competitivo, él diciendo que es un jugador bastante competitivo. Que si podrían aplicar alguna cosa para que mejorar la tarjeta de juego, ¿vale? En las estadísticas de cada jugador, para que puedas tú en una partida ver cómo lo has hecho y cómo lo han hecho los demás para ver cómo mejorar.
All right, next question over here.
Hello. Oh, sorry.
Hey.
Hi, thanks for having me. And I've been really trying to think how to say this question. First of all, love the game. Go Overwatch.
Thank you.
But when I see the game, I see so much lore potential, but there's not a lot of lore for us to really enjoy. We only get like Junker Signs Revenge, not even lore. And the Omnic Crisis, you know, single player campaign. So, real question, more lore, single player content, kind of two, sorry.
Yeah, so I totally hear what you're saying. We have a number of
Este chico
things that are in development
más,
right now on the story side that hopefully will get into
más lore,
some more of the
más
hero
historia
stories
sobre el
and
juego,
just show off more of the universe.
más cosas
So
para
it's something that
un
we're
jugador.
continuously working on and something that we're hoping that we can ramp up and have more frequent and more in-depth bits of story. So yeah, definitely stay tuned.
Y eso es lo que van a intentar.
Thanks. Right, over here.
Hi, big fan of everything you guys do. So Overwatch is a team-based game, obviously. So you win or lose a match based on how well you work with those other 5 people that you're queued up with at random, mostly. So my question is, why is there such a lack of a social aspect to Overwatch? I mean, general chat is just spam or memes, and there's no real like way to meet people outside of a third party like Discords or Reddit or whatever. So are there any plans in the future to maybe add some kind of like a general lobby you can join while queuing or anything to really put you together with other players?
So we talk about things like this internally, and there's a lot of different ways you could kind of design something like this, and especially for the competitive scene, we've internally had discussions about, do we need some sort of looking for group system or something like that, and there's a lot of challenges with designing a system like that, but we know that there's a desire in the community to start either looking for players based off of the role they're going to play.
Bien.
Or sometimes there's,
Este preguntaba si hay alguna cosa pensada para mejorar la comunicación entre jugadores, o el cómo encontrar equipo, o el cómo un chat específico para poder tener mejor comunicación y no ser que siempre juegas en random con jugadores que no conoces.
Right, question over on this side.
All right, so being an avid WoW player for years, the instant connection between you announcing the Magni Bronzebeard skin and also the new character Moira and like Moira the Dark Iron Dwarves, do you think there's going to be or already has some sort of voice line interaction reference, you know, going on that might reference, you know, the Moira of the Dark Iron Dwarves?
That's an interesting idea.
I hadn't even thought of that, actually.
Yeah, I hadn't
Bien,
thought
ha
about
preguntado
that,
si habrá
alguna
frase que puedan decirse entre el skin de Barba Bronce y Moira.
Warlocky mage feeling about
Porque Bran Barba Bronce era el padre de Moira en World of Warcraft, de otro personaje diferente, claro.
Her and I would say Symmetra, we definitely tried to kind of merge that wizard kind of mage vibe and bring that into Overwatch.
Just need Roadhog to get that Voidwalker skin, and she could get the Warlock skin, and they can cruise around together.
Right, thank you.
Hello.
Hey.
I just had a question when it came to like character design. When you put an androgynous character like Moira into the game, what's going through your head when it comes to adding diversity to the roster, like when it comes to body type like Mei or Zarya, or when it comes to gender like Moira? Like, what are you guys thinking when you add someone like that to the roster?
Well, the first thing, obviously, that is Overwatch is about diversity.
Otro preguntando por la diversidad del juego, de cómo deciden cuando un personaje, cuando están diseñando un personaje, qué tipo de, cómo deciden el cuerpo, cómo deciden si es delgado, si es gordo, si es su aspecto.
More players out there that would represent you guys as much as possible. So that's definitely on our minds, and definitely we just want to make.
Porque, por ejemplo, todos sabemos que Zarya no es una 90-60-90, Mei tampoco, Mei está un poquito rellenita, alguna cosita así. ¿Cómo deciden ello?
Hi, my question is about Talon, actually. We've seen a lot of different Talon stories. We've seen Doomfist Masquerade, which was a James Bond sort of story. Alive is about an assassin. Now we have Moira, who's completely different, and I'm wondering about the challenge of writing this very broad faction or creating these very unique characters all under the same banner, and how you sort of align them while still making them have their unique niches.
De Talon.
Well, I think one of the really interesting things about Talon is that it was really intended to be this larger group of, I was going to say heroes, but of people with different aims, and the idea is that, you know, all these different people with the different ideas of what they want have sort of been brought together. In the like current modern day, Doomfist is clearly the one who's sort of imposing the idea, like Talon has this ideal, right? Let's make mankind stronger through conflict, and Doomfist is sort of righting the ship, and he's gathering people around him who he trusts, people he believes in. And so I really think that the fun part of Talon is just like when you look at Overwatch, and it's like Overwatch is soldiers, scientists, adventurers, and oddities, and I don't think that you know, Talon can't also have that kind of real diverse feeling in the different characters who are part of it. So it's a challenge, but I think it's fun because you know, you can already sort of see how these characters play together and their relationships, and I think adding a character like Moira into the group with snarky Sombra and, you know, and Widowmaker and everything will be fun, and so we can't wait to tell some more stories about that group and see where they're going.
Que ahora con la salida de Sombra nos contarán más historias de Talon.
All right, I think that is actually the last question. So again, thank you all for coming. We love the Overwatch community. We couldn't do this without you.
Ahora sí, esta es la despedida, con lo que, como iba diciendo antes, volveré para los siguientes vídeos de los siguientes juegos.